Good morning. Today is Thursday, February 11th, and we're looking at the 42nd chapter of Genesis, continuing the story of Joseph. Joseph is the second in command, the leader of the land of Egypt. He is Pharaoh's right-hand man. And you guessed it, Jacob and his sons are experiencing this famine just the same. Jacob says to his sons, "Why are you sitting around looking at each other? There's grain in Egypt. Go get it so we can eat. Go buy it." So, they can't even figure that out for themselves. No wonder he liked Joseph the best. So they set off. Benjamin does not go with them, but 10 of them, there's 10, take this trip to Egypt to buy grain for the household in Canaan, in the land of Canaan. They get to Egypt and they appeal to Joseph, whom they do not recognize as their brother, even though he recognizes them. He pretends not to know them. And he accuses them of being spies. Where are you from? Who are you? Sir, surely you are spies. So he says, the only way I'm going to know that you're not spies, because they explained to him, we're 12 brothers. Our youngest is at home with our father, and one is no more. They keep saying that, and they're referring to him. So he says, I think you're spies. So the only way I'm going to know you're not spies is if you bring the youngest brother before me here. And then I'll know you're telling the truth. So they say, okay. So he puts him in jail for 3 days, just to give him a little taste. And he lets him go. I mean, they don't know it's him. So it's like he lets him go on with this whole ruse, puts him in jail. Then he says, here's the deal. You're going to need this grain. So I'm going to send you home with grain for your sacks, but you're going to give me, one of your brothers is going to stay here in my prison as collateral until you bring back the youngest son so that I know you're telling me the truth. So which one does he pick? Simeon. I would have thrown Simeon in the dungeon too. I mean, remember, he and Levi were the ones that killed everybody, and Simeon was one of the leaders of, taking his life and taking Joseph's life. So he binds up Simeon. I imagine Simeon's probably the meanest of the brothers. He binds up Simeon, puts him in the dungeon, and he instructs the people that are filling the grain sacks to leave the money in. And leaving the money in the grain sacks, so they fill the grain sacks with grain and leave the money on top. The money's supposed to be taken out and put into Pharaoh's treasury, but he leaves the money in because he's trying to be gracious, I think, maybe he's trying to mess with them. I don't know, but it makes him very nervous. It makes the brothers nervous when they discover the grain, the money's in the grain bags, and it makes the father nervous, Jacob Israel, when he discovers that the money's still in the bags. What is this? What is this that God is doing to us? So they don't know what's going on, and it makes them very nervous that they walk away with grain and the money they brought. And so they're really on edge, freaking out. And, you might say, Joseph's messing with them. He kind of deserves his chance to mess with his brothers after what they put him through. He really does. But Reuben emerges as this benevolent character. Remember, Reuben was the one, he said, don't kill him, throw him in the pit, and then we'll decide what to do with them. And Reuben's plan was he would go rescue Joseph out of the pit later. But then before that could happen, Judah decides to sell him into slavery and make some coin off of this deal. So, but Reuben he emerges as this really benevolent character. He emerges as this wonderful son of Jacob and a protector of all his brothers. So he's still kind of in the good graces in my eyes of not going along with whatever anyone else says and saying he is the firstborn. So there's that, but he's redeeming himself again and again in the book. And what else did I want to say about Reuben? That's why they named a sandwich after him, I guess. But so Reuben, he goes back to the original thing. they are experiencing this, being accused of being spies. They're experiencing this as a punishment of their guilt for what they had done to their brother. Not knowing that it's their brother that's doing it, they are imagining that this is, you reap what you sow. You made your bed, now you have to lie in it. And Reuben said to them, did I not tell you not to harm the boy? I mean, I told you not to do it. I mean, look at this now. And so they return to Canaan, land of Canaan, and they tell Joseph everything that happened. Well, we went there. We brought back the grain, but we also have our money. And Joseph's like, why do we have our money? And so Jacob says, why do we still have our money? It makes him as nervous as it makes everyone else. So he tells them the brothers, the 10 brothers, well, the 9 of them now, tell the whole story about what happened when they went there. We got there. He accuses us of being spies, so he wants us to bring Benjamin back. But Simeon's still there. They left him in chains. And Jacob starts to lament. He says, his son, Joseph, was under their care when he was destroyed by wild animals, which is, of course, what Jacob still believes happened. So Jacob still understands that Joseph is no more, that he is dead. So he says, I've lost my son Joseph, and now I've lost Simeon, and now you want me to risk losing Benjamin? Because you see this. Jacob always loved Rachel the most of all his wives, and so her 2 sons, which are Joseph and Benjamin, are the most precious to him because she is the wife that is no more as well. She has passed away. She died in childbirth, result of childbirth from Benjamin. So Jacob is worried about being without this part of his family. And I told you this Genesis stuff would be good. And it just really gets good in the end of Genesis, where we get these narrative stories. So you get this emotional thing about Jacob, Israel, trying to preserve the love of his life through her children. And he was like, I won't let Benjamin go anywhere. What if he's killed on the road? What if something happens to him? I send my sons out and then they come back dead. So he's not willing to give up, and he's just lamenting. And he says to his sons that he will go down to Sheol, which means die, with gray hairs. Would you bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to Sheol? I will die sad if any harm should come to Benjamin. So the brothers are in a tough spot right now. I would say, let Simeon fry. Save Benjamin. But anyway, and that's what Jacob would say too, maybe. But he's just distraught. Like, how can I got to get I lost a son already. Now I've lost Simeon. And they want me to bring Benjamin on the road, and I don't want to risk him. So this is where Jacob is. Bless his heart. Jacob the father, Jacob Israel, the main guy. Maybe he's reaping a little bit what he sowed. Nobody's without sin. Maybe Joseph. Joseph doesn't seem to have done anything wrong, ever. So there's that. But nobody's without sin. But I like the character of Reuben because he's the one who says, I know we've done wrong, and this is our penalty for this. But we need to be more mindful of how we act in the future. I like that. It's repentance. It's that act of saying, we're human, we did wrong, we need to make this right. And I love that about him. Jacob also, I feel like Jacob Israel, he kind of wants what he wants. I mean, he wants to keep all his sons with him and be happy. But he's also just, I gotta, I can't do this. I don't know, we're in a rock and a hard place here. So the brothers have a challenge ahead of them, convincing their father to let Benjamin go back to Egypt with them so that they may get Simeon released from Joseph's prison. Of course, they know him as Zaphanath Paneah. And he didn't even, he heard exactly what they said because he speaks Hebrew, but he spoke to them through an interpreter posing as an Egyptian. I mean, he really did not declare who he was to them. So he's got them out on a string, dangling them, and we'll see what happens. We have to wait till tomorrow to get to the next chapter in this saga. Have a beautiful day.